and partners to announce federal criminal charges related to the death of the actor Matthew Perry. Following Mr. Perry's death in October of last year, law enforcement, my office, and our partners represented on this stage began an in-depth, wide-ranging investigation. That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network responsible for distributing large quantities of ketamine to Mr. Perry and others. This network included a live-in assistant, various go-betweens, 2 medical doctors, and a major source of drug supply known as, quote, the ketamine queen. We charged 5 defendants in this matter. These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways. In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being. I'm going to talk about the indictment, the allegations, and the charges in more detail. On October 28, 2023, Mr. Perry was found deceased in his home. An autopsy was conducted following his death. That autopsy showed that he had died due to the acute effects of ketamine. Ketamine is a controlled substance. It has some legitimate uses, but it is also used illegally. It is used by people seeking to disassociate from reality. It can cause serious health effects, serious health problems, including loss of consciousness, including spikes in blood pressure, and including respiratory issues that can deprive the brain of oxygen. For that reason, it is a drug that must be administered by medical professionals, and the patient must be monitored closely. That did not occur here. This investigation focused on who supplied the ketamine to Mr. Perry. As many of you know, Mr. Perry struggled with addiction in the past. And on many occasions, he sought help for his addiction issues. The investigation revealed that in the fall of 2023, Mr. Perry fell back into addiction, and these defendants took advantage to profit for themselves. The 2 lead defendants in this case are defendants Salvador Plasencia and defendant Jasvin Sanya. First, I'll talk about defendant Plasencia. Defendant Plasencia was a medical doctor. He worked with another medical doctor, defendant Mark Chavez, to obtain ketamine. He then worked with Mr. Perry's live-in assistant, defendant Kenneth Iwamasa, to distribute that ketamine to Mr. Perry. Over 2 months, from September to October 2023, they distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine to Mr. Perry in exchange for $55,000 in cash. Defendant Plasencia saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry. He wrote in a text message in September 2023, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay." He also stated in text messages that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's sole source of supply. He wrote in a text message that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's, quote, "go-to for drugs." As a doctor, defendant Plasencia knew full well the danger of what he was doing. In fact, on one occasion, he injected Mr. Perry with ketamine, and he saw Mr. Perry freeze up and his blood pressure spike. Despite that, he left additional vials of ketamine for defendant Iwamasa to administer to Mr. Perry. Of course, defendant Iwamasa had no medical training to speak of. Defendant Plasencia knew what he was doing was harming Mr. Perry. He had spoken to another patient in mid-October 2023, and he told that patient that Mr. Perry was spiraling out of control with his addiction. Nonetheless, defendant Plasencia continued to offer ketamine to Mr. Perry. Likewise, defendant Sanya knew what she was doing was harming defendant defendants and also Mr. Perry. She took advantage of Mr. Perry by selling large amounts of ketamine to Mr. Perry over a 2-week period in October of 2023. She sold approximately 50 vials of ketamine for approximately $11,000 in cash. She worked with a broker, defendant Eric Fleming, and also the live-in assistant, defendant Iwamasa, to distribute this ketamine. Sonia and the broker, defendant Fleming, saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry. In a text message, the broker wrote, quote, "I wouldn't do it if there wasn't a chance of me making some money for doing this." Defendant Sonia sold the batch of ketamine that resulted in Mr. Perry's death on October 28th. Officers later searched defendant Sonia's home. During that search, they found what amounted to a drug-selling emporium. They found 80 vials of ketamine, thousands of pills containing methamphetamine, cocaine, bottles of Xanax and other illegally obtained prescription drugs, and drug-selling paraphernalia, including scales and ledgers. As I mentioned, the defendants in this case they refer to it using terms such as, quote, Dr. Pepper, or, quote, bots, or, quote, cams. Also, defendants Placentia and Chavez, as medical doctors, knew full well this was not the proper way to administer ketamine, and they even talked about that in their exchanges. And defendant Sonia also knew that she was doing something that caused great risk to Mr. Perry. In fact, during this investigation, we learned that several years before, in 2019, defendant Sonia had sold ketamine to another customer. That person died the same day, and a family member of that person sent a message to defendant Sonia telling her the cause of death was ketamine. Nonetheless, defendant Sonia continued selling drugs, including the ketamine that ultimately killed Mr. Perry. That other victim was a person named Cody McLaury. He died in 2019. As a result of this investigation, we have filed a drug distribution charge related to the death of Mr. McLaury. After Mr. Perry died, these defendants tried to cover up what they had done. On October 28th, after reading news reports of Mr. Perry's death, defendant Sonia wrote a text message to defendant Fleming saying, quote, delete all our messages. Likewise, after Mr. Perry's death, defendant Placentia falsified medical records and notes to try to make it look like what he was doing was legitimate. It was not. We have filed numerous federal charges against the 5 defendants. These charges include conspiracy to distribute ketamine, distribution of ketamine resulting in death, maintaining drug-involved premises for that drug-selling emporium the defendant Sonia had, altering and falsifying records related to a federal investigation for those false medical notes and records that defendant Placentia made, and multiple other drug trafficking counts. Of course, the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty. The penalties these defendants face are very significant. With regard to defendant Placentia, the statutory maximum sentence he faces is 120 years in federal prison. And with regard to defendant Sonia, the statutory maximum she faces is life imprisonment. By filing these extensive and serious charges, we are sending a clear message. If you are in the business of selling dangerous drugs, we will hold you accountable for the deaths that you cause. This is nothing new for us. Since 2022, my office has filed over 60 cases against drug dealers who've caused the death of another person. These cases are known as death-resulting cases. They are labor-intensive cases, and we work with our law enforcement partners, including ones represented here today, to bring those cases. Our office is a national leader in bringing those cases. They're very important because every victim's life counts. If you are in the drug selling business and you're selling dangerous drugs, you are playing roulette with other people's lives, just like the 5 defendants here did to Mr. Perry. Defendants nowadays are on full notice that the products they sell could result in the death of another person. Therefore, if you're in the drug business, and despite these risks you continue in the drug business, you are pushed by greed to gamble with other people's lives, be advised, we will hold you accountable. I want to thank our partners in this case, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. These investigators did a phenomenal job digging into the case, looking at every angle to develop a case, a strong case against not only those who killed Mr. Perry, but also Mr. McLaury. I want to note that these cases are important and will continue to collaborate with our law enforcement partners to bring them, to ensure that justice is brought to every victim. And finally, let me thank the prosecutors responsible for the investigation and the prosecution of this case. Those are Assistant United States Attorneys Ian Yanello and Xiaohan Tsai. And now I'd like to introduce Chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, Dominic Choi.
All right. Good morning, and thank you, Martine. You know, while it's tragedy that brings us all here together, I'm happy to stand here knowing that these dangerous individuals are no longer on the streets and they won't be able to harm anyone else. The Los Angeles Police Department and our partners here today, we're committed to investigating all cases like this, and it's regardless of someone's background or socioeconomic status. And just with all of our cases, this investigation was done impartially. We let the facts drive this investigation, and those facts led us to a group of individuals who were responsible for supplying and distributing to Mr. Perry narcotics that led to his unfortunate and untimely death. The group standing here today, it's a prime example how our partnerships and our collaboration can yield meaningful results. I want to thank LAPD, our Robbery Homicide Division, who's standing in the back there, the U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada and his team, the DEA and her team, as well as the U.S. Postal Inspection Service and their team for their hard work, diligence, and real patience. Now, I know people think this took a long time, but there was a lot of work, a lot of investigative strategies that went into this to make sure that there's a solid case and that we can pursue this in the courts. Our relationship with our federal partners, it helps us ensure that these criminals will have meaningful sentences and be an example for anyone that is willing to risk or jeopardize distributing and supplying unlawful or narcotics to anyone. And I just really want people to know that that is the message. You cannot get away with this regardless of your background or socioeconomic status. Breaking the law is breaking the law, and you are dangerous and you are jeopardizing lives. So thank you all of my partners for being involved in this and bringing us to where we are at today. And at this time, I'd like to introduce DEA Administrator Ann Milgram.
Good morning. Today we announce charges brought against 5 individuals who together are responsible for the death of Matthew Perry. Each of the defendants played a key role in his death. They falsely prescribed, sold, or injected the ketamine that caused Matthew Perry's tragic death. In the United States, most forms of ketamine are only approved by the Food and Drug Administration for anesthesia. A nasal spray version is approved for treatment of depression, but only in a certified medical setting. Here, Matthew Perry sought treatment for depression and anxiety and went to a local clinic where he became addicted.
We are going to continue to monitor this, but we have been listening to the Justice Department announcing details of their investigation into the death of actor Matthew Perry. 5 arrests have been made over who supplied Perry with ketamine. the drug the 54-year-old actor accidentally overdosed on. 3 of those people have already pleaded guilty. I'm going to go ahead and recap some of what the United States Attorney for the Central District of California told us. The details are disturbing, to say the least. They accuse these defendants of taking advantage of Matthew Perry's addiction to enrich themselves, saying they knew what they were doing was wrong but did it anyway. A reminder, Matthew Perry died on October 28, 2023. The autopsy said the result were acute effects of ketamine, which is a controlled substance. And the United States Attorney made a point to say this drug does have legitimate use. In fact, Perry was undergoing ketamine therapy for depression, but it was being used illegally and has been used illegally by some folks to disassociate from reality, essentially. But the U.S. Attorney saying that this can deprive the brain of oxygen and has to be administered by medical professionals, and the patient must be monitored closely, saying that did not happen here. I want to go ahead and see if we have CBS News Justice Department reporter Rob Legare. We do. Robert, good to see you. You're following this for us from Washington. I mean, wow, what are your takeaways so far?
Yeah, well, obviously this is a criminal scheme that came to a very tragic end in October when Matthew Perry died from ketamine overdose on the 28th of October. What we're learning and what we discussed in the last hour, Lindsay, is basically what we have now what we were looking for. Basically, these details that allege a sprawling scheme from supplier to distributor to his personal assistant, who are all accused in this conspiracy of distributing the ketamine illegally. As you said, this can be a substance that is used for therapy, but in this case, prosecutors allege it was done illegally. That resulted in Matthew Perry's death. And what's really sticking out here as well is the fact that prosecutors have already secured 2 plea agreements. Another person intends to plead guilty in the coming days, and that means they're cooperating. And so these individuals who were indicted today, the indictment was unsealed today, one of the distributors and one of the doctors, they now have these 3 witnesses who will be used by prosecutors to provide evidence. And we already see in that press conference examples of that evidence, text messages that they said that they got from the doctor, between the doctors saying that they wanted to see how much money they could get out of Perry for this allegedly illegal distribution of ketamine. Another thing that's interesting is just the quantities here. They said 20 vials were allegedly sold to Perry's assistant for that administration, totaling more than $50,000. And in an information that was filed in July for his personal assistant, who recently pleaded guilty, I counted before I got on here, and it said about between the 24th and the 28th of October, the day Perry was found dead, 27 shots of ketamine were injected, according to prosecutors, and his personal assistant pleaded guilty and admitted to that. And so that's just another piece of evidence here that prosecutors are using to bolster their case. Yeah,
this assistant who was admitting, even though they had no medical training, to injecting Perry with this ketamine. Another really startling detail I want to ask you about is that one of the defendants in this case, Jasveen Sangha, the ketamine queen, according to court documents, had sold ketamine to another customer. That person died, and a family member of the victim had reached out to Sonia to say that it was a result of ketamine, but that this doctor continued to illegally give this medication.
Right, and so this is one of those things where prosecutors are always looking for intent when they bring charges, and here, this was about 4 years before the defendant allegedly distributed the ketamine to Perry, and so that intent there, that knowledge that this was illegal, this could lead to death, and it did in that tragic case in 2019, and it did again in October of 2023, and so those are some of the things that prosecutors look for when they're bringing these charges. Here's quite a sprawling scheme where we have the doctors, the communications between them, the distributors, Sangha and Fleming, and then his assistant as well. And so, this is one of those things where doctors clearly allegedly knew that they were doing something wrong. One is intending to plead guilty and admit that that was the case. Another one is still being charged and has pleaded not guilty. But, the scheme that we're talking about here, intent is important. And that case you mentioned kind of goes back to that.
According to the U.S. Attorney, after hearing news reports of Perry's death, Sonia, according to prosecutors, tried to talk to Fleming, the broker, and say delete messages. Another tried to fabricate records to make it look like it was legitimate, which it was not, they allege. Robert Legare, thanks for being with us here on this breaking news. Appreciate it.
Thank you.